Today we're going to be reviewing set 2507 Fire Temple, containing 1,174 pieces and retailing $420 US back in 2011. If you want to purchase this set through Bricklink today, the average price new is going to be $376 US, and if you want to purchase it used, the average price is going to be $201 US. Taking a look at our minifigures and starting with the good guys first, going from left to right, we have Kai DX, Nia, Trainee Zane, and Sensei Wu. Taking off each minifigure's headpiece, we can get a better view of all their faces. Flipping the minifigures around, we can see that Sensei Wu and Kai DX come with back torso printing, and that Nia is the only one that comes with an alternate face. Moving on to the bad guys, we get the remaining minifigures, which consist of Lord Garmadon, Samukai, and Cruncha. Removing Garmadon's helmet, you can get a better look at his face, and we also have the ability to open and close Samukai's mouth. Spinning the minifigures around, we can see that Garmadon does not get any back torso printing or does not have an alternate face, but we can see some of the cool molding that Samukai has on his back. So here we have our first two side builds, and I've decided to take a look at both of them together just because they're virtually the same thing. So starting with the left side first, when you come up the stairs, you're greeted with the tree here, and then you have this gate build here as well. You also have this little brick built drum that just kind of sits on that little pin there, if you can see that properly. So we're putting that back on there. You also have these sticks that are both on the left and right side of the gate that you can use to kind of smack the drum if you so please. Now from there, we also got the right version of this. So there is the stairs and you are meeting with the tree again, except it's a mirrored image of what is on the left one. And we also get a gate on this side, but instead of a drum, we get some swords that you could potentially pull out and, use for training or fighting, whatever the case may be. Taking a look at our next side build, we have the Fire Dragon. Now the Fire Dragon has a cool little color scheme going on here. So we got the dark red as one of the main colors. We also have two different yellows. So we have a brighter yellow, as you can see here, and it's seen in the tail a little bit. And you have like a darker yellow kind of on the underside of the belly, as well as the wings being that color as well. So we also get the orange as an accent color, as you can see it throughout a little bit. And we also have gold as a little bit of an accent color for anything claw related. There is black in here going for the feet and like hands mainly, but other than that, the color scheme here is great. I even like the fact that they included it in the sphere that's going on instead. For the fireball, they have the red and kind of orange tints in there, which makes it look really cool. So another thing about this dragon is how massive it is. You wouldn't think that in a set like this, the dragon would get this much of a focus, but look at how massive it is. I have to go so far out just to look at the length of it, which is really great in my opinion. I think having this size is good for the dragon because it's one of those creatures that's larger than life, so it makes sense for it to be massive, and I think it did a good job with that. Now there's also some added things in here, such as the saddle, which is a good thing, and we also get a banner back here. Those are the main things. Everything else is going to be sculpting. But if we take our minifigure, which is Kai DX, and we can sit him in here, we can kind of take a look at him within that seat and just kind of get an idea of how he looks on the dragon. The next thing that we're going to discuss on the dragon is its mobility. As you guys know, I'm kind of a sucker for mobility. I think it's very important. It's what distinguishes something from being a statue versus a toy. So taking a look at the head's mobility first, we can see that it's on a ball joint, so you can move this, up and down, but there is limitations when the bricks start colliding, but you still have the ability to move it, left and right for the head. Now the head at this point is kind of fixed, so there's not much you can do about that part there, which kind of sucks, but that's fine overall, I think. Taking a look at the wings next, so they are on these little ratchet joints in here, so you can move them up and down here. As you can see, you can also turn them if you so like, so there is that aspect of it. The wings itself, you can also spread out and close. You also have the claws that you can kind of just move up and down. Really not too much going on there, but that's to be expected there. From there we have the legs. So the legs, there's no there is knees technically, but there is no mobility within those knees, but you can move the entire leg itself because those are on ratchet joints as well. So you can move these up and back, and there's not really too many limitations there other than maybe the body getting in the way itself, but you can still move those fairly easily. You can also spread them out however you want. but those have great mobility. The tail itself is also good. You know, I don't really like the way that they did the tail, but there is still that good mobility in there. So you can, you know, twist and turn the tail 360 if you would like. Same with the flame back here. You can move it back and forth a little bit, but the tail is the main thing. It can also move with these joints in here, these like little ratchet joints in there. So you can move it up and down that way and then turn it side to side. So overall, while there is limitations to the dragon, I think that those limitations are very minimal compared to what you can do, as you can still get it in very cool poses such as this one. And the final thing that I want to showcase on the dragon is the play feature. Now, we've seen this play feature before, but it has to do with this ball right here. So of course, every dragon in this wave has this feature, so you can shoot that ball out just by pressing on the head, as you can see here. And just to get a different perspective of that feature, here it is again. Finally, we have the main build for this set, which is the actual fire temple. Now we're going to take a look at the exterior first and then move into the interior. We also have to take a look at it in chunks because unfortunately the set is a little bit too big for the setup that I have now. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Starting with the entrance of the fire temple, you're greeted with these stairs. So going up the stairs, you get to the sword of fire here, and it does spin here, so you can spin that around, but it does play a much more important role within the play features, which we'll get into later. Going past it, you also have the entrance to the temple. To the left and right of those, we have some brick built lamps here, which are pretty cool. We got some railing, but you can't fit any minifigures behind there, which is a shame, but it is what it is. We also get some dragon statues both on the left and right side over here. There's also these cool printed images here of this dragon. So it's two different images printed on two separate pieces, and they just kind of, you know, intertwine with those pieces as you put them side by side. Now going from there, we're going to move to the top area of the temple. So let's go ahead and move the camera up a little bit. So up here, it's kind of some of the same thing. We get some printed pieces. We have this opening here, which is going to be used for a play feature again, which we'll get into later. We also got the cool roofing. It's at an angle here, which is very nice. Some more railing up here. And, you know, as you get to the top, it's pretty much more of the same, more of these angled pieces. And then at the top, we get like this Torii Gate top piece at the very peak of the temple, which looks very nice. Moving on to the left side of the temple, we have a much less detailed area, unfortunately. This area isn't really covered up too much. There's this lime green piece, which is kind of a bother to me, but I know what purpose it plays, and we'll talk about that later as well. I'm not a big fan of the kind of empty walls here. I feel like they could have continued the printed elements here, which would have been nice as well, just to add more to the completeness of the temple. Same thing goes for when you come up here. As you can see, it's empty again in this area, and you know, it's just kind of a bother there. I wish they could have filled it up a little bit more. So that's kind of a shame, but you know, there's not really any railing out here or anything like that, so not on the bottom or on the top. It's not too big of a deal because it's more of the side, but it would have gave it more of a complete look, going for either railing and kind of filling up this empty space here. And then at the top, you can just kind of see the roofing is again at an angle here, so in both areas it's at an angle. Same with these right here, which have the fire coming out of them, and then you can see the side view of the Torii Gate up there to some degree. Flipping the temple over to the right side, we can see we have some of the same issues that we have on the left side. So this area is again not covered at all. There's the use of lime green here again, which I'm not a big fan of. It just feels very empty here, especially with the fact that there's no covering for the wall here. It's just empty space. We still get the angled roofing, which is great. No railing up here either, but again, more empty spacing. So let me go ahead and move this up here. You can see that we have the same issues up here as well. So empty spacing, no railing, but we still get some slight details on the corner pieces with these like lamp type builds here. So that's nice, but this area still seems very empty to me. And then at the top, of course, it's just the top of the Torii Gate, or the side of the Torii Gate here again. Finally, we have the interior of the fire temple. So there's a couple of things going on in here. Kind of the elephant in the room is this big platform here, but that comes later with the play features. If you want to get more into the actual details, we have, you know, a spear being held over here by these pieces on the left side. On the right side, we kind of have the same thing, except instead of a spear, it's a katana over there. We also have the actual entrance from the inside, so you have these fire spewing mechanisms here, so you can get a look at that fire there. There is some katanas over that just to give it more of, you know, personalization for the entrance to make it look a little bit cooler. We also have this training like dummy type thing over here on this side. And then we also have what I would assume is a seating area over here, but I'm not entirely sure what these studs are supposed to represent. So if you know what that means, let me know in the comments below. But again, not much going on for the interior in here. But there is a reason for that, and we'll talk about that later within the play features. If we want to move up here, we can see that there is the upper area of the temple as well. Again, no area up here for like any type of standing or anything like that. It's pretty much empty space here, but again, there is a reason for that. So from this perspective, you can still see that there's this big circular hole here. Again, a reason for that. And then you can kind of see some of the back area of the temple here, such as, you know, some of the other stuff that's going on and the way that it's constructed. Moving on from there, we can get into the one and only play feature that this set has. Now, it is a pretty cool feature if I do say so myself, so it does kind of make up for it not having as many play features. So the way that this feature works is you come up, you grab the sword, you pull it up, and the fire temple splits open. Now it does split open a little bit further than that, but it still works very well in my opinion. And sometimes you may have to push this down just to get the mechanism to close back up, but this answers a lot of questions, or a lot of reasonings at least, for why certain things aren't the way they are. For example, my complaints about these sides not being covered up. Well, the reason you can't really cover those up too well is because the temple comes out, so there's no point. Then the feature wouldn't work. Then there's the lime green tiles on the left and right side. That's where you put your fingers to close the temple. Now, those easily could have been a different color, but the reasoning for doing that is probably to let little kids know that you can close these from that specific area to make it easier on yourself. This also answers questions as to why there is, cracks or slits in the build. You may have noticed it while looking up at the actual temple itself. Some things don't align perfectly, which does get frustrating from like a display perspective. But the reason for that is because, you have to have some playability in this. So this is pretty much one of the coolest ways to have that playability, is having, the temple split apart and unleashing the fire dragon there to protect the sword of fire. Now, this is seen in the show. In the show, it's at a much, much bigger scale, of course, but, still what we have here is definitely great for what it is. And before moving on to the final thoughts of the set, let's go ahead and show a couple of different scenarios of the Fire Temple's play feature being used. For example, one with the dragon, one without the dragon, and then one from the back without the dragon, so you can just see the mechanism from behind as well. So let's go ahead and start this one with the dragon itself from the front. And now we have removed the dragon, so let's go ahead and showcase that. And finally, we can see what the feature looks like when it's opened from the back. So just to reiterate, here's everything you get in set 2507 Fire Temple, containing 1,174 pieces and retailing for $120 back in 2011. So do I think that this set was worth the $120 back in 2011? The answer is yes. Starting with the minifigures, you get 7 minifigures, and I already think that's off to a great start. You could argue that you could add one more minifigure on the evil guys just to even the teams out, but I think what we have now is still great. You could have a battle going on at both the side builds and the main build, and that would be, a good way to kind of spread out those minifigures in terms of battle. So that's a good thing there. Then moving on to the builds themselves, you get a lot of builds in this. First, you get the 2 exterior side builds. So you get the 2 Torii Gate with trees builds, and you get one for the left and right side, which is great already. On top of that, you get the fire dragon itself, and this fire dragon isn't a small dragon, it's an enormous dragon. It's very large, so they put a lot of pieces into it, and I think that's a good thing because the fire dragon looks that much better. Now there's also the main build, which is the fire temple. The fire temple only has one play feature in it, but that play feature is so grand, it does so much for the actual building itself in terms of playability, that it kind of makes up for the fact that there's only one. It's just that good. Now, there is some issues with this set, right? There is the unfinished areas on the left and right side of the temple where they could have easily filled it up with more panes that have prints on them. That could have been very easy for them to do and just give it more of that finished / polished look on those sides. I understand why they can't do that to the bottom area where I was complaining about it not being covered, because the mechanism comes out of there, but they could have easily changed that lime green for a color that actually matches the set, such as black, red, brown, any of those three colors would have worked in that specific area, and that would have been fine. But overall, the set is still great. I think you're still getting great value, even if you're not perfectly at that price per piece range that people usually look for. I think that the finished product here is so good that the $120 you would have spent on this feels like so worth it. First, you get essentially 3 side builds. You get the Torigate that has the drum on it. You get the Torigate that has the swords on it. So it's 2 different builds. Then you get the actual dragon itself, which is not a small dragon at all. It's a great dragon. In fact, there's minimal problems with it overall. And then you get the fire temple itself with that cool play feature instilled in it. Now, the set as a whole is pretty much perfect in that regard, and because of that, I think that this is entirely worth it. Now, that concludes my review of set 2507 Fire Temple. If you enjoyed the review, consider liking the video, and if you are enjoying the content overall, consider subscribing. It is completely free, and as always, I will see you guys in my next video.